volleyball is just what Zerg players call that Zergling-Baneling phase of ZVZ. There we go.
Yeah.
Now we know what it is.
It's actually because Zergs can't make
they
can't make the E sound, so whenever a changeling runs up to you and you're like, what sport am I playing right now? If they don't say volleyball, you know it's a Zerg. You know it's a changeling.
That's right. Oh, that's how you tell.
Yeah.
And then you like kill them, and then it's like, oh, it's a changeling, but they're still wearing the volleyball pants. Yep. It's very awkward. Well, here we have our SlayerS player, CoCa, in the red down the bottom right part of the map. He's going to try to get a win, get some momentum going against the team that this player is from. It's going to be our green Zerg player, none other than IGNProLeague. Easily one of my favorite Zergs of 2011. He hasn't done quite as well in 2012, but I feel like times are changing.
The times they are changing.
They are becoming more like they were last year. One of the two.
You know, LosirA has legitimately, let's give credit where credit is due, been playing very well in Team League situations. He's really shown up in our tournament. So I'm excited for the future of this guy, who's obviously a top GSL competitor, made it to the finals even. So certainly still has a lot of potential. Looks like a cat has that going for him too. So, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Don't really have anywhere to go with that, I guess. But
well, that was weird. I just saw one of our LOL commentators like doing that, like ride the cowboy dance down the hall. But
yeah,
I don't know, man. Those League of Legends guys. That's
from the
what do you expect?
the new Psy video, Gangnam Style. I cannot stop watching that. If you don't know what this is, Google it right now. Psy Gangnam Style. So
Gangnam.
Yeah, it's Gangnam. So
do you know what Gangnam is?
No, I don't.
Gangnam is a very trendy fashion store-oriented district in Seoul.
Actually,
okay. It's like it's a big shopping area of Seoul. At least that's the impression that I got when I was there. There was very fashion-centric and all that, very ritzy.
Well, all I know is it's style as presented to me by Psy. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well, he's clearly the best ambassador for South Korea.
Yes, that video makes me lol heartily. So LosirA decides to expand, goes into a Speedling build afterwards, getting gas well before pool, so we make sure he has that 100 saved up right away. His opponent CoCa, though, deciding to get pooled just before gas, so he'll still invest in his upgrades, but wants to make sure he prioritizes his couple of queens that are coming out a little bit quicker.
Yep. Now, the cool thing about ZVZ, one of the things I love about it right now is that because of the Overlord speed increase and the queen buffs, we see a lot less of the Speedling, Baneling all-ins that used to be so popular in this matchup. We see Zerg players kind of being like, all right, it's just too easy for my opponent to see that coming, so I have to play for the longer game. And that's what we've seen. We've seen a lot of longer ZVZs. It's still very exciting. It's still a very volatile matchup, as I said earlier. And it's kind of cool to see what the players like to do. I mean, if we're talking about TSL Revival, for instance, he's a really big fan of going for Spire Tech into a third base. I think that's a great way to play ZVZ right now, so I'd be happy to see one of them do that. Otherwise, the Roach style is still around, and we do also have players going for a Lingenfester Ultra, too. So it's a really neat matchup. There's a lot of variety, and it's a ton of fun to watch, in my opinion. I love ZVZ.
I really love the Lingenfester Ultra that you were talking about there, though. I mean, I go back to the example of Scarlet using it in this tournament alone.
Yeah,
but
she's great at it.
It's a really fun example of it, though. It's a really good game. So
that style, the Lingenfester Ultra style, is so interesting because everyone talks about how cool it is to watch, but really all you do with it is you just sit there and play defensive until you get Ultralisks, and then you just like steamroll them, you know? Which, I mean, from a player perspective, that's not quite, to me anyway, that's not quite as much fun. But then the payoff is you just get to like run them over with Ultralisks and feel like a boss when you're doing it. So it is kind of cool. It's a slow start, but it's a great payoff with that style.
And CoCa gets out there, takes down an Overlord with his queens. Unfortunately, LosirA doesn't have the same thing going for him. All the Overlords are pretty well tucked back. But in the defensive Baneling Nest was already finished up for CoCa. LosirA taking a page out of his teammate Nest's book, though, and going right for Roachhorn and bypassing that Baneling Nest. Trying
to make that tight wall, though, but you're right, going for Roachhorn instead, just like Nest used to be so good at doing, and we'll see how well it works. I mean, Nest was literally like one of the only Zergs that could legitimately pull that off, and even that didn't last forever. But, you know, in this new day and age where you don't need to worry about Banelings quite as much, I would say we might see a bit of a resurgence for this style. Those two Banelings and not going to be able to do much at all. Zerglings coming in to try to go after that queen. The Banelings are getting close to the middle line. Oh, very nice.
Wow.
Singes a couple drones. Oh, a couple more Zerglings get in, and some get into the main. That queen's in trouble.
Yes.
Oops.
We'll see if anything's able to reinforce in time. No, it looks like LosirA is going to lose one of his queens, loses a couple of drones as well. But that was a fair bit of resources that CoCa put into that. And LosirA, you know, he decided to consciously take a little bit of damage, let's be honest, by bypassing the Baneling Nest and additional Zerglings at the beginning of the game. But when all is said and done, he still has the lead in drones. He's already on Roach Tech.
Yeah, I mean, he did take some damage. He did lose 2 queens, 1 at the natural, 1 at the main, and a couple drones along with that as well. So I feel like CoCa did okay. I mean, LosirA's going to need to remake those queens, but I feel like that right there, that illustrated just how much you do need the Baneling Nest in ZVZ, even if it's only for a couple defensive Banelings. Because, I mean, look at that attack, for instance. It was only 2 Banelings and a relatively small group of Speedlings, and it was still able to kill off 2 queens and a couple drones. It's not so bad. So I just feel like even if you think you're really good with roaches, even if you are Nest T or LosirA, you still want to get that Baneling Nest just for safety's sake. You can never you'll never see a player go, oh man, if I wouldn't have made that Baneling Nest, I would have won the game, you know? So make the Baneling Nest.
Well,
think of the kids.
Third hatchery coming up now. Think of the future of the serve race.
Kids. That's right.
Third base coming up for CoCa at the moment. LosirA actually just throwing his up as I say that as well. CoCa actually powering straight ahead to Infestors, though. So going from Banelings, putting down the Roach Warren just in case. He will eventually add those in, but going to prioritize getting those Infestors out before he complements them with the Roaches.
And so we'll have to see how the rest of this goes. Looks like most of the aggression is done for both players in the early game anyway. CoCa really spreading his creep pretty aggressively for his ZVZ.
Yeah.
Kind of shows that he wants to be aggressive with these roaches. He wants to be the one attacking, and he wants to be able to use that creep to reinforce quickly. I mean, that's kind of the biggest problem when you end up with roach versus roach ZVZ, is that someone can initially come in and win a fight, and then as they're pressing farther into their opponent's base, they'll get just crushed by reinforcements. And if you have that creep spread out there, you can theoretically get your reinforcing roaches to their base fast enough to handle that. So he's going to try it. Creep spread's a little bit stalled out right now, but it could come in handy a little bit later in the game, though. I feel like LosirA is pretty well ready for this push, though.
Infestation Pit about halfway done for LosirA as well, and yeah, he does have quite a few forces. Of course, he is down that upgrade, but he's researching upgrades at twice the speed that his opponent is, so he's actually going to have an upgrade advantage here momentarily. We'll see if CoCa just decides to go for this hatchery. He is not. No. He's turning and fighting, reinforcing with a couple of forces, but LosirA has a shorter reinforcement distance. I think that was a bit of a mistake. I mean, CoCa knew he was going to lose those forces, so it looks like he wanted to equalize as much as he could rather than try and take out this base, but now LosirA has a pretty good lead.
It seems kind of not quite the right decision to do that, but in reality, I think that was. He probably, could have killed the hatchery, but if he had killed the hatchery and let that many roaches survive, the counterattack would have just been so strong. So as it was, he killed what he could. He knew he had made a mistake, and I think reducing the army size of LosirA and reducing the effectiveness of the counterattack was a better decision. Still going to be tough, but it looks like CoCa can probably, well, he's going to take some losses either way. I mean, it was a bad attack that he tried, but at least it wasn't as bad as it could be, but still bad.
LosirA has a ton of forces and an upgrade advantage right now as well.
Infestors here.
Yeah, this is actually looking to be really, really good for LosirA. CoCa just has nothing to defend this. LosirA had some pretty good control a second ago as well, and burrowing a lot of his hurt roaches, but now it just doesn't matter. He can just run them up and kill everything.
Yeah, I think LosirA is actually just going to win the game right here. GG, there it is.
Oh my god.
And wow, counterattacks, deadly in ZVZ by far, and LosirA